Everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Chitong. I'm the co-founder and CEO of EngageRocket. EngageRocket is a software platform that helps businesses to analyze their employee engagement across the entire life cycle from hire to retire. To date, we have analyzed more than 1.5 million responses over 37,000 users globally. And we're extremely privileged to have Mr. Herman Rolfers from HEINEKEN with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. And the main reason that we're talking today, all of you, is because we had the privilege of participating in one of the best HR hackathons that I've ever encountered. I have to be very honest with you, Herman, on that one. To pull off what HEINEKEN did in such a fashion was truly remarkable. And I know that many of you listening are keen to run hackathons of your own. So today we're going to be going behind the scenes to pick Herman's brain on what made their event so successful. So thank you very much again for joining us, Herman.
Thanks for the invite. My name is Herman Rolfers. I'm the Director for Global HR Technology and Solutions in HEINEKEN. I report to both the Chief HR Officer and the Chief Technology Officer. To the latter, I have a dotted line. And very happy to be with you today.
As HEINEKEN was planning this hackathon, what were some of the key considerations that you had to even decide on running a hackathon?
I think there basically were roughly three. As you know, we are implementing success factors, and I like to compare the implementation of success factors with an oil tanker. You push in the coordinates and the project starts. And as you move with this project successfully through the world, as we do in HEINEKEN, at some point you need to identify speedboats. And the speedboats are the innovations that guys like you bring to the world. And this is one of the main reasons why we wanted to organize a hackathon, really to fast track our implementation. That's the first reason. Secondly, we're doing an awful lot of innovations inside. So this would be a great baseline to also see what we are doing if we're heading in the right direction. And secondly, bring the outside in. What are some of the companies doing outside that can help HEINEKEN to become fully employee-centric and people inside labs? Because that really is our mission. So our mission is not to automate and to standardize the transactional value chain. Yes, that will bring a benefit to the corporation. But what the main reason is, what our key mission is, what our Northern Star or our lighthouse is really for HEINEKEN to become fully employee-centric and people inside lab with the help of technology. That's what we're here for, and that's why we hosted this event.
That's wonderful. And I think just to kind of dig deeper into what you were saying earlier, that the hackathon is really to get some information from the outside in. How did you decide that a hackathon was preferable to other alternative programs, like maybe sourcing innovative startups on your own, independently, or through other agencies like research agencies like Gartner and so on, or even establishing accelerator programs or corporate venture funds that we've seen some other companies do? Why a hackathon?
Yeah, I think it was not really a hackathon. I think that a real hackathon, you're writing code, and in this particular case, we were not interested in writing code. We were interested in seeing what is it out there, and what is the potential of unique solutions that can really help HEINEKEN to solve challenges that we have real life. And basically, we were also we have a long history, and we have a very strong brand. We are proud of our brand, and we were looking for ways to combine that pride and the power of our brand with what is out there and really create like win-wins with startups. And you can do that in two ways. You can indeed do that by looking into venture capitalists, but you can also really do that on your own. And I'm not sure if we really did it truly on our own, but we thought that there was an opportunity just to start to engage and create this, let's say, space for open innovation with the startups and the scale-ups that are out there.
I was extremely impressed by you sharing that during the event. But
Yeah.
maybe if you could go deeper today and talk about how did you and your team pull it off within such a short period of time with relatively limited resources as well?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. I said at the beginning that, after the event, I was high on adrenaline because it was such a fantastic show with all the pitches and identifying the winners for the real life challenges that we are currently facing today. And we really pulled this off in like 5 weeks. I was amazed, really amazed that in such a short time you are able to pull this off and also attract, because in the end of the day, we had like 143 applications submitting to our contest. And the contest was actually only open for 1.5 weeks, right?
Yep.
We put this event off in 5 weeks. We did that by composing a very small team. And that team was very quick on their feet. We had daily stand-ups. And every Friday, we did a bigger team meeting to see, hey, how are we cruising against our plan? Where are the pain points? How do we need to solve them? And by sitting in multiple time zones, because we were planning to host the event in Singapore, yet the majority of the small team, again, a very small team, I think we were like 7 people max. The majority of the team sat in Amsterdam. So we had our big team checkpoint every Friday. And by doing that and checking in on a daily basis, we were able to keep track. We basically did what you guys are doing in everyday life. We did stand-ups. We had a stand-up board. We had sticky notes, and we were just checking how we were doing on a daily basis. And for me, and I was not able to involve myself on a daily basis, but twice a week, I was involved in the big team meeting and in one checkpoint. And by just participating in the one checkpoint, by investing only 10 minutes in a stand-up, I immediately knew how we were cruising against time, but also where our pain points were and where I had to help the team to accelerate. And that's I think, how we pulled this off.
That's incredible. And I love the fact that you guys ran daily stand-ups with weekly update meetings. Very, very unlike traditional multinational processes.
Mm-hmm.
Could you, I know you weren't involved in all the daily stand-ups, but maybe could you expand on like how you said 10 minutes? What was this the average time taken, and how did people how would these meetings run?
So it was indeed the four stand-ups a week were like 10 minutes, and the bigger meeting, the one week we had the checkpoint on a Friday, was like an hour, just to go through our plan. The 4 stand-ups, every work stream owner was just forced to give a quick update on how they were progressing and ask for help if there was a blocker. And again, this is also, I think, how you start and develop in a very Scrum Agile way software, right?
Yep.
And why run a project that is not about developing software, but about inviting startups in a different way? Yep. For us, this was a way we wanted to do this quick. We wanted to make sure that we were successful. And in order to do this successful in such a short time span, you need to be on top of your game. In order to be top of your game and make sure that the principle of minimum effort, maximum result applies, this is the way to go. I've seen it work in running big projects. I've seen it work in running small projects. This is how you keep high pace and close density of every project, people and person involved.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys really executed well on textbook Scrum, which is hard to find in the corporate environment. So that's a great story. And when it comes to thinking about events like this, maybe hackathons like this, one of the biggest challenges that companies face is just getting people to apply to be part of the hackathon. And you mentioned that essentially the contest was only open for 1.5 weeks. How did you go about marketing the event in a way that got you a whopping, I don't know if I got this correct, 143 applications? Yes. Is that right? Yeah. How did you go about doing that? That's crazy.
Yeah, first of all, I prayed to God. Just kidding. No, it was like, I remember that our innovation manager said to me, this is way too short. And I said, well, we just go for it. My assumption is that every startup out there understands and sees an opportunity. And we were offering an opportunity. We were offering an opportunity that would also ask an investment of them, because we were clear, like, hey guys, we're doing this in Singapore. And by the way, we're not paying for your tickets, but we have an opportunity. And the opportunity is an innovation sprint. The opportunity is an innovation sprint. And if you are successful, the opportunity is Heineken. So think about that. If you are a startup, and I know you are one, as a matter of fact, you made it to the finals, you saw the opportunity. You saw the opportunity, and that was the key element in driving this home. And of course, we didn't do this by our own. I remember that we basically invited all our partners to come to our office in Amsterdam and say, "Hey guys, we have a challenge." So we ended up talking to our partners Accenture and the Next Web, because the Next Web gives a fantastic opportunity and a fantastic platform to start engaging with startups. And I think that was the mix. And then that mix was accelerated by making sure that we had a very effective communication strategy in place. In order for startups to be with us, we needed to make sure that we leverage social media as much as we possibly could. I remember that Maria, our comms expert, actually was able to get in touch with a couple of very strong partners in the region. I remember that one of them actually said, "For the love of beer, we will give you free publicity on WeChat," and that really accelerated the entire thing.
And that's an advantage that not many other companies would have. I can imagine.
Absolutely, and that's how we got it going, and that's how. Again, I made a joke at the very beginning, but to be honest with you, I was willing to thank God if we would have got 50 like startups, but it really took off like big time, and I never thought that we would end up with like the 143 applications that we got.
Yeah, that was truly amazing. And I remember hearing about the event from everybody, from venture capitalists, from even the government, the Enterprise Singapore wrote to me saying, "Hey, I think you guys really need to pay attention to this event." And by the third email they came to us, we were like, "Okay, this is a no-brainer. I think we need to get involved." And I have to commend your team as well on the sign-up process. The application process was seamless. It took literally 10 minutes of my time to read it through and fill in the forms and give the necessary information. And it was a very, very good experience. And big kudos to your team. And as you mentioned, EngageRocket was very fortunate to be one of the finalists, 12 finalists out of 143 applications. So we're very, very privileged to have gotten to that stage. What were some of the challenges that your team had in selecting just 12 finalists out of so many applications?
The big challenge was sticking to the timeline, because we had made a promise. We've made a promise to everyone, and actually we communicated the date already. And the big challenge is to stay true to your to the criteria that you also share very transparently up front. And there was an awful lot also of opportunity for us out there. So the big challenge was really to drill down to the 12 finalists. I think, but in the end of the day, yes, we stay true to our 12 finalists, and we will honor our commitment to run an innovation sprint with the 4 winners in our categories. But I tell you, I have a fantastic database of wonderful startups, and I will not say farewell to that database. I also have a commitment to the winners, and that is a commitment that I will honor. So our focus is on making sure that we run 4 successful sprints. But as you know, and you know better than I do, nothing is ever finished. It's just upgraded. So what do we do next? And I know for sure that we identified 4 real-life challenges in the context of Heineken. But we're not there. The Northern Star, we stayed true to our mission, and our mission is to become fully employee-centric and people inside-led. And if there's one thing that I'm also sure of, next to that nothing is ever finished and just upgraded, is we have not found the Holy Grail. There's more out there that will help us to really help the company to become fully employee-centric and people inside-led. So for us, this is just the first step. And as we also communicated on social media, this was the first brew house. There will be a second one. We will do one next year as well. In the meantime, we'll focus on the innovation sprints. In the meantime, we'll continue to focus on delivering the value through success factors. And in the meantime, we will thank every minute that we have this great database of startups that we will continue to review and see where there's an opportunity to start engagements in the future.
That's great. And actually, I should have mentioned this earlier. The branding of the hackathon as well as HR Brewhouse, I thought was great. So just adding some context to
Thank you.
The name you mentioned earlier. So I don't know to what extent can you talk about this, but for those 4 real-life problem statements,
Yes.
What are the measures of success? What are they? What are the problem statements, if you can share broadly?
Yeah.
And what are some of the measures of success that you're looking for in the operating company pilots or the innovation sprints that
Yeah.
you are running before deciding on implementing a solution more broadly?
Yeah. No, that's a very good question, and we've given that some extra thought in the slipstream of the event. And just to recap, the 4 challenges that we put out there was number 1 was recruiting for superstars. So really, in the context of you started off by talking about the war for talent. How do we find the best talent? That was one. The second one probably is also related to your war on talent. Is how do we create a seamless onboarding and transition process? You know that we are a global company. There is an awful lot of traffic of talents around the world. So how do you transition from A to B? That was the second one. The third one was around engagement, a very broad, let's say, challenge that also links to performance management and continuous feedback. And the fourth one was a wild card. We just wanted to be surprised by what is out there, so we left it really open, that category. And for all the 4 categories, we came up with a set of KPIs. And by the way, we're still looking at those KPIs, and we are also open to hearing from others in terms of what we should really use as effective measures. But in random order, Net Promoter Score. So how likely are you to recommend that this is a very great solution that helps solve a problem? Secondly, back to our mission statement, what is the user experience? And thirdly, what's the value case? So what are we trying to solve more from a, let's say, monetary perspective? And maybe, and this is something that I'm struggling with, because we are doing these innovation sprints also, let's say, in a very, let's say, contained kind of environment. So I'm not sure if I can work with this, but nonetheless, I'll share it in the context of this conversation. What is the active interest of other employees, users in the region? That of course would mean that we would also need to do some advertising around it. So that is still something that we are considering. But NPS, user experience, and value case for sure will be 3 of the KPIs that we will be measuring success against.
That's great, and I love how this has all been very clearly thought through, even though it's still kind of in the early stages that you're saying. So if I get this correctly, basically you're going to be asking the users what whether they're likely to recommend this program from the operating companies to the rest of the global audience. They're also going to be asking them on their user experience, and then so who's going to be making this value case actually? Is it going to be the startups that you're working with, or the users, or is it going to be a kind of collaboration between the two?
Yeah, I think it is a collaboration. If you look at the way that we structure our innovation sprints also start with interview with users. So we need to, in order to meet expectations, you need to understand what expectations are to begin with.
Yep.
So that's also how we got up with these challenges. It was not HR saying, "Hey, this is what keeps us awake at night." No, it was HR asking our users, "We think that this is something that keeps you awake at night. Is that true, or do we need to add? Do we need to consider other initiatives?" And only after we crowdsourced basically our pain points with the people in the region, we came up with the challenges. So we owe it to the people that actually said, "This is where you need to pay attention to go back and say, how do we involve you best in making sure that we do the right thing?" I don't believe in this. I don't believe that a corporate HR party will be successful. I think that you always need to stay true to who you do this for. So you always need to go back to your users, and the users in the context of HR obviously are your employees, your line leaders, and also HR itself. So you cannot do this in perfect isolation, because then one thing will happen: you will fail.
I love that you mentioned that, because I'm contrasting this against the very lean team of 6 that you guys had working on this project, with the broad network of business stakeholders, digital innovation teams, and everyone else around this, that essentially you need their support for this to be successful. How did your team work with these other stakeholders to ensure a successful outcome for everyone?
Yeah, but this is a good one, and and we can talk about this, and we can polish this nice shiny objects, and obviously sometimes it's a very bumpy road. Let's be honest about that. But the beauty of this initiative is that it originates from pain points that users identify. So before the 5 weeks, if we go back in time, actually we used a platform that we have in the company called Workplace, so Facebook at Work, to crowdsource our pain points. And I was able to crowdsource our pain points because at the beginning of my journey with the company, roughly 2 years ago, we created user journeys. So we had a design thinking exercise and we created journeys, employee journeys. And we asked the business to help us identify, hey, where do the pain points sit? Where should we focus on if we bring technology solutions? Success factors are starting point. So we basically had a good understanding of where our pain points were. And given the fact that we were implementing success factors, we were also able to identify which pain points we would not solve with the help of that, let's say, that foundational piece of technology. And that's the knowledge we use to crowdsource it internally, saying, hey, we believe that A, B, C, D are some of our pain points. Can you help us to prioritize, dear users? So we invited the people in Asia Pacific on Workplace to say, give us your votes. And with your votes, we will go out and we will source these pain points with the startups. And this is how we got to talk to people like yourself. And we got everybody to rally to the event, and we're now doing the innovation sprint. So it started really
That's
with
great.
the user in mind, and we'll also continue to work with the user in mind.
So this is great, because what that meant, it sounds like the stakeholder engagement actually happened way upstream, and so the buy-in process was natural, because this was their project as much as yours, essentially.
Absolutely. In my mind, there is no such thing as HR-led thinking, HR-led design. Yes, people in HR obviously know very well how to execute process, very know how to design process, very well how to implement process, very much how to execute process. But I think that in the end of the day, today, in today's environment, with all the solutions, you should always start with the user in mind. And in the end of the day, the user is also your employee and your line leader. They also need to see that there's a benefit in helping in using technology to execute HR process.
That's great. And we're coming right up to about time. So last question, Herman. What is one piece of advice you'd give to other HR leaders who are looking or thinking about running their own hackathons?
Yeah, I would say two pieces of advice. First of all, open your mind. Open your minds because there are fantastic startups out there that can help solve your pain points. Secondly, be prepared to fail fast and fail forward, and even consider, and this is also a mindset thing, accept that there's actually value in failing. And this sounds very contradictory, but there is actually an opportunity in failing, because it will allow you to do things differently in the future. That's not easy, but that is a side of innovation and experiments. Experiments have the potential to fail. That's something that you have to accept, and that's why I want to make the point about accept that there's an opportunity to fail, so there's an opportunity and not a risk. And then if you fail fast and fail forward.
That's a great advice. So opportunity to fail, take that opportunity and fail fast and fail forward. So
yes.
Thank you very much for your time. Everyone, we've had Herman Rolfers on the interview. He's the HR Director of Systems and Technology at HEINEKEN Global, and very, very privileged to have him on this show. And just kind of I have to ask this. You hinted earlier, there's going to be an HR Brewhouse again. Should we be expecting that?
Yeah, you should definitely accept another HR Brewhouse sometime next year. So I think that our priority and our focus is to make sure that we run 4 successful sprints. But definitely, follow us on LinkedIn and follow us on other social media channels, because we will definitely want to engage in a similar, exciting way with the startup communities and the disruptors that are out there.
Wonderful. I really look forward to the next one. Everyone, do follow the HEINEKEN company and EngageRocket on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you very much for listening,
Thank you.
and do stay in touch.